I met Imogen quite a while ago when you had a book that came out here in New York,
yes,
but it was
my
before
first
you moved,
book, yeah.
before you moved to New York. But then you moved to New York, and I remember you told me that the last person you wanted to have anything to do with in the city was me.
I avoided Michael Riedel actively for about 2.5 years. No, really, I mean properly. And then we both ended up doing the Imus in the Morning program. So we sort of met on that. And I suddenly have become huge friends with Michael Riedel, which is a massive surprise and a little bit worrying.
I remember when Imus found out that we were friends, he said, you're friends with Imogen Lloyd Webber, right? I said, yeah. He said, are you dating? And I said, no, she's beautiful. I'd be so lucky, but no, she's a friend of mine. I said, well, that leads me to my next question. Are you gay? And I said, only when you're on the campfire, Don. And that's how we got on Imus, and then he created a segment for us.
He did. And as a result, there's an organic phrase, which you'll hear a few times a day, shut up, Riedel.
Because I would always attempt to sing show tunes.
And you can't sing.
I can sing 4 notes from every song.
You cannot.
The 5th note, I lose it, and I lose the melody, and that's when Imogen tells me to.
To shut up, Riedel.
All right, Imogen, tell me now, this book, How to Get Through Cocktail Parties, being able to talk about just about anything.
Yeah.
History, geography, politics. What was the idea for the book? I mean, did you spend a fair amount of time at cocktail parties and find yourself in awkward positions without knowing what you were talking about?
Everybody can relate to being stuck in a conversation about where you wish you knew more. That's, apart from you probably, Riedel, you think you know everything. But normal people, there's gaps in our knowledge. And I'm sort of on a mission to make everybody an intelligent conversationalist, because I don't want anyone to ever feel shut out of a conversation. And so I moved here 6.5 years ago, and I was doing politics and business on air. I was a Fox News regular, and then I was an MSNBC contributor. And every time I was on TV, I'd have a cheat sheet. And then I was talking to my friends about them, and they were going, oh, we want cheat sheets. We need cheat sheets. So I was then chatted to them about the areas where they felt they had gaps in their knowledge, and also where I felt I might have gaps in my knowledge, and then wrote this series of cheat sheets. So there are 31 of them. And if, for instance, you were going to have dinner with Michael Riedel, not that you'd really want to, but if you were going to have dinner with Riedel, you'd read the theatre cheat sheet, and it has lots of sort of stunning statistics and noteworthy nuggets, and also pivots out of the conversation if he gets a bit boring, and that's so it's just for dipping in and out of.
You have to understand how seriously she takes these cheat sheets, because I've seen her preparing before you go on camera, and she actually has color-coordinated cheat sheets.
Yes.
So she has green notes and red notes and blue notes for a segment that lasts about 7 minutes. But you stayed up all night preparing for the segment. I mean, is your worst fear of being unprepared for something?
That's a very good question. I think you always have to do the work. I'm very grateful to be in this country, and it's a place where if you work hard, opportunities do come, and we all fail in life, but if I'm going to fail, then I want to know that I've prepared and given it my all. And again, being on TV is a big deal to me. I don't take that lightly. I'm very grateful if I'm invited on air, and I want to do my best for everybody, the hosts, the producers, and also people watching. So it sort of comes from that, really.
And she prides herself on being accurate, unlike me, who I kind of wing it.
Now, to be fair, your book's accurate, your columns are not.
Thank you very much.
There we are.
All right, when you're at a cocktail party now, this subject is going to come up, and that's politics, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you have to talk about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, how do you keep the chatter light, keep it a debate, and not an argument where the drink gets thrown in someone's face?
Yes, drinks should always be drunk, not being thrown in people's faces. So as far as Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders go, there are some phrases that you can throw out which can explain their rise. So Americans get the worst political campaigns that money can buy. In 2012, American politicians spent $7.3 billion getting themselves elected, and they have to raise that money. So they're then beholden to special interest groups. And that is where you can explain away Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, because they were anti those special interest groups. So you'll throw that phrase out. And then there are some few standard ones. A week is a long time in politics. It's a good standard. You don't win campaigns by playing defense. Another one. But my favorite one, really, when you need to end a political conversation is, Wake Me Up on November the 9th, which shows that you know that the election's on November the 8th, but that you also want to get out of it.
What's your advice if you're in a conversation, and let's just say for the sake of argument, because we live here in New York, and I would imagine many people are supporting Hillary Clinton. If you're a Hillary Clinton supporter, you start talking to someone that you like, maybe find attractive, and it emerges that he or she is a Trump supporter. What is the response to that?
That might be an insurmountable obstacle, I have to say.
It's the prospect for a date.
Shut up, Riedel. You see, he just needs to shut up. No, I mean, I think here's the thing, is that you can always throw out, and this is one of my favorites in debate, that a stopped clock is right twice a day. And I think that's a very effective shutdown of Donald Trump supporters. Sorry, Riedel.
What about other dicey subjects that you deal with? For example, you're at a cocktail party and somebody starts talking about the Israeli-Palestinian situation. Is it best to not tip people off to what side you might support or be against and talk in general terms about this intractable problem?
I think you always do keep these things general, especially on the Middle East. The Middle East cheat sheet was the hardest one I had to write. I did all the others. Awards season conversation was clearly a little bit easier than the Middle East. So I did all the others, including World War I, World War II, Cold War, everything, and I left it to the end because, where do you start? And as far as the Middle East goes, I sort of approached it that you have to understand that Saudi Arabia is predominantly Sunni, Iran is predominantly Shia, and that whatever happens in the Middle East, the end game is going to be a sphere of influence of Sunni Muslims, which obviously basically controlled by Saudi Arabia, and a sphere of influence of Shia Muslims controlled by Iran. So that's how I approach it. As far as when you're then talking about Israel and so forth, I have learned that sometimes in conversations, the most important thing you can do is listen. And especially as a Brit living in America, I am your guest. So sometimes as far as the Middle East goes, I need to sometimes sit back and listen to why Americans have the opinions that they do, which can often be very different, certainly on the matter of Israel.
Well, you guys screwed up the Middle East long before we got there.
A very, very safe, it's a very good point, and it's also something that I put at the beginning of the Middle East cheat sheet, is that if you're in a bit of a dicey conversation, just blame the British. And it is all our fault. Now, you can slightly blame the Americans now, but if we hadn't divvied up the Middle East as we did at the end of World War I, wouldn't be having many of these problems today. So just blame us. That's very safe. And Brits are happy to take the blame. When you blame an American, they often get upset, and that's lovely about you, because you often are right and you're great and the good. We Brits, we're used to just being wrong and guilty, so it's fine. We'll take it. Don't worry. We'll never be offended.
And being cynical about geopolitics, as you were all these years.
Well, yes, just a little bit.
One of the things that made me laugh in your book is a terrible mistake for someone to make, and it really sort of kills any authority someone might be trying to project, is when they make grammatical errors. You're a stickler for grammar in writing, but also in conversation.
Well, the world is a stage for all of us with social media. And just in business, this week I had a press release through with an apostrophe in the wrong place. It was all throughout the press release. And it's just dire and sloppy English. One of the reasons I had the idea to write this book is I love Twitter. I was on Twitter one day, and the Prime Minister of the Time's wife in the UK wrote a tweet out, and she spelt definitely wrong. And with autocorrect now, that's just, to me, unforgivable. And as a result, I couldn't take her seriously anymore. I couldn't take her opinions seriously. You automatically negate your opinion on social media if you've got a grammatical error in there. Now, okay, maybe I take it slightly too far, but certainly my first book was about being single, and I was doing interviews for that. Certainly, I'd met people who ditched their other halves for bad grammar. They just couldn't take it on the text anymore. That was it. They were out.
Well, but also, though, now with social media and with tweeting, which I don't do, but you tweet.
Thank goodness. Although there is a fake Michael Riedel account, and I spend my time tweeting out that it's not you.
I know it's not me. Somebody set it up in my name. I don't know. I can't even figure out how the can opener works to figure out tweeting. But does not the social media, texting and the tweeting, is that not the enemy of good grammar and spelling, because everyone's taking shortcuts when they're texting and tweeting away?
No, I don't. I don't think there's never an excuse for getting an apostrophe wrong in a tweet. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. There just isn't. We do all make typos, but I mean, one of the reasons I wrote this book is that social media does give us all the ability to converse, to get our opinions out there, and there's never any reason for us not to be perceived as intelligent. Everybody has a right to an opinion, and if this just helps. And this is a fun book as well, but if it helps boost people's confidence, that's what I really want to do.
So are you all right tweeting "are you here" with an R instead of A-R-E?
I don't think I've ever done that, no. And also, I like to think I'm an expert on this. I wrote a novel composed of tweets with a friend of mine. So I know all about that 140 character limit, and we actually did it. Every single sentence was in 140 characters, so it's possible.
Now, you born and raised in England, but have
Yeah.
been here now 6 or 7 years. There is cultural and linguistic differences between English and American
Yeah.
English. Can you give us a few examples of words that you might use in London that would provoke a different reaction if you use them here at an American?
I can. Well, I think let's keep it. Let's first of all start it out clean, because unfortunately with us Brits, we do get very naughty pretty quickly. But the word quite. The word quite.
White.
Quite.
Quite.
Q-U-I-T-E, quite. So if an American says to you that you're quite good, I learned that you guys mean that as a compliment. And I was trying to get a job, and I was on an email, and this person recommending me said, Imogen's quite good. And I was so offended, because quite to a Brit means not really. So quite good means you're a bit rubbish. I mean, you're just not so great at your job.
So when the Brits say yes, quite, it's sort of
It's
skeptical.
sarcastic, skeptical side of things. So there's that, which I sort of do cover in the book. But then there are a lot of other fun ones. So for instance, the word roast.
Yeah, roast, yes.
Roast. How naughty can we get? How early in the day it is? So Americans have roasts, which is comedy type things.
Yeah, the Dean Martin roast where you make fun of somebody who's on the dais.
Yeah.
And we also have, roast Sunday dinner
Yeah.
where you have a roast beef.
So we have roast Sunday dinners, but another word, roasting, is also applied to gangbangs in the UK, normally involving one girl and several soccer players.
Never
it really
heard
is. So the first time when I first moved to America and I was watching entertainment television, I love entertainment television, there's nothing wrong with it, and I was watching it, and George Clooney was having a roast, and he was talking about being roastings and all these things, and I'm looking at the television, and I literally had no idea really what he was talking about. And I'm thinking, well, he wouldn't be talking about gangbangs on entertainment television, but I'm not quite sure what this is. So I was Googling. But there are a lot of terms like that.
What about, you have an expression that I do like, but you could never really say it over here, called taking the piss out of someone or something.
Yes, which has nothing to do with urinating. It's taking the mickey, having a joke with someone or about someone.
At somebody's expense.
Yes.
Who do you find, what cocktail parties do you find more challenging? A party with a lot of fancy people in London, or a party with a lot of high-flying one-percenters here in New York City?
I would say, and I'm just as a girl, this actual one isn't in the book, but it's a brilliant anecdote. Here in New York City, I don't do those fancy parties very much, but I did go to an Upper East Side party, the only one I did go to, I think, last year. And I turned up, and I came from work, and I have a very full-time job at Broadway.com. I'm their senior editor. So my hair was out here. I was a bit messy. I probably could have looked better, but, I'm a working girl here. So I turn up, and I'm talking to these two women, and one of them's looking at me like this. And I had not met them before. And she goes, "Yes, I had your problem before I had Botox." And I went, okay. And I didn't quite know what to do. So anyway, actually I did know what to do. I got slightly drunk, I'm British. And then I'm in the cab on the way home, and I decide to tweet this exchange, which I managed to get into 140 characters, which is quite a challenge when you're drunk and in a cab in New York City and you're doing this. And I'm good friends with Piers Morgan, for better or worse. I've known him a long time. He's married to a friend of mine from university. Piers must have been in LA, saw my tweet at 11:30 at night, retweeted it to I don't know how many million followers, and I've never been invited to an Upper East party since.
You have a Botox cheat sheet in that?
I don't, but no, that's true.
What was the one area in the book where you knew absolutely nothing and you had to spend a lot of time becoming a master of something?
Well, I'll preface this actually. When I first landed on American television, I was talking about the Single Girl's Guide, and it was on Fox Business, and Fox Business realized I could talk. And then they started putting me on TV when I'm not a business person. So this quote is great if you're talking to somebody about finance. And it's from John Kenneth Galbraith, very famous economist. And he says, the function of economic forecasting is to make astrology look respectable. And if you look at my transcripts from AIR, I've thrown that out a number of times. So the finance one was a challenge, but I'd already learnt that by Fox Business. Which is a good question. The Middle East was the hardest one I had to write, because you also have to be sensitive to everybody, while also trying to make the book evergreen. So that was a massive challenge.
I must say the theater section is very good because I helped you with it.
Shut up, Riedel. I'm nice about you in the theatre section, actually. You have written a brilliant book about theatre, so if you want in-depth theatre, read Riedel's huge book. If you just can't be bothered, just read my little cheat sheet, and it's much better.
Now, since we both cover the theatre, we've got the Tonys coming up
do.
on Sunday night. I'm going to make a bold prediction that Hamilton is going to win Best Musical.
Shocking.
But do you detect any surprises in the Tony race coming up? Anything we should look for on Sunday night?
So the two numbers you've got to keep in mind are this. Hamilton, obviously, record-breaking 16 nominations, but there are two numbers you need to keep in mind. The producers won 12 Tony Awards in 2001, and the chorus line won 10 in 1975. Now, can Hamilton exceed either of those numbers? I'm not so sure. There are a lot of competitive categories outside the big ones. I think the most interesting one, the one that's got everyone talking, we did a lunch for the Broadway League about this yesterday, is the Best Actor category. So you've got Lin-Manuel Miranda, obviously creator of Hamilton, up against Leslie Odom Jr. in Hamilton. They might split that vote, and Danny Burstein, the Susan Lucci of the Tonys, this is his 6th Tony nomination, no wins, Fiddler on the Roof, a lot of affection in the Broadway community, might pull off a fantastic surprise. And then there are other categories. I mean, for instance, Cynthia Erivo in The Colour Purple. If you've not seen The Colour Purple on Broadway, Riedel and I don't agree about anything, as you can tell, but we both love that production of The Colour Purple.
I love The Colour Purple.
She should win for Best Actress. Yeah.
I think you're right, possibly about Danny Burstein, because I thought Leslie Odom Jr. was going to win, because Lin-Manuel Miranda is going to have plenty of awards.
He's going to do fine.
Right, and I thought, and Leslie's terrific in the show, but I've been out and about for the last week with a lot of Tony voters, and many of them have told me that they're going to vote for Danny Burstein.
Yeah.
So that could be the surprise.
Might be.
And Cynthia Erivo, I agree with you, will win. And I'd also like to put in a good word for David Rockwell, who designed the set for She Loves Me, which is really beautiful. It's a lovely, enchanting production if you haven't seen it. And how about School of Rock, a show that I like very, very much? Is your father going in there secretly thinking, I'm going to pull off an upset, I'm going to pull off an upset?
He will be there. On that day he's presenting, and School of Rock will obviously be on stage, but I think we know that it's not his year this year. He's okay. I think he's fine. Okay, I think he's fine.
He's accepted.
He's all right.
He's accepted that Hamilton is going to win.
I think he's okay.
Yeah, and then watch the Tonys, because a little bird told me that he and James Corden and I think Lin-Manuel Miranda are going to have a little fun something or other together on the show.
I couldn't possibly comment, but I have a plug for me. So tomorrow night on CBS at 7, I will be presenting a pre-Tony special. So hopefully people will like it.
Terrific. Well, the book is The Intelligent Conversationalist by Imogen Lloyd Webber. Read it, and you will sound like me, brilliant.
Shut up, Riedel.
At ease at the cocktail parties. And we now are moving into an audience Q&A. So if any questions for Imogen about the book, about the theater, about her life.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
How do you deal with if you're talking to someone and they kind of say something really pretentious or rude, and you're kind of just like, ugh, but you don't want to express disgust to their face?
Well, first of all, don't get Botox, so you actually can have some facial expression. I just put that one out there. I think that you can always pause, and then you can say, interesting point, before saying something like, the shortest complete sentence in the English language is go. Shall we go to the bar? And then go to the bar and ditch them.
That's really it, though. Sorry, I just need to get another drink, and then you can just disappear. That's what I do.
Unfortunately, sometimes you've got a full drink, so you have to quickly neck it and then go to the bar. It's a bit obvious at that point, but you know.
It's happened.
Hey, Imogen.
Oh, I love the T-shirt.
Yeah,
I want one.
That was great. So my question is, I don't know if the book covers this at all, but I'm curious to pick your mind a bit. I know a lot of people in my life sometimes have a very difficult time talking about job promotions. It's a very heavy topic. Even if they feel capable that they're able to do something, they have a hard time talking to either their supervisor or their boss about their abilities. What's the best way to go about that, and maybe, overcoming your fear of reaching out that way?
I think what I've always learned is rehearse. So you find a good friend in industry, or for instance, my best friend in London is in mergers and acquisitions. So completely different. Obviously, I've known her since I was 11 years old. But when I know I have to have a salary discussion or whatever, I will go through with her how best to tackle it. And we do it vice versa, actually. She'll come to me for advice. So find a friend to rehearse your lines. And then, of course, it's always about groundwork. It's about groundwork in the office and picking your moment and getting a feeling. For instance, going to my boss this week, asking for anything, unless it's Tony Awards related, bad week. Wait a few weeks until after the Tonys. So it's also about picking your moment. Yes, and as I say, I think it's just finding that one friend who can tell you. I mean, I also talk to you a bit about it as well, don't I?
Yeah. Do you find Americans talk more openly about money, about their net worth, about their salaries than the British do?
No, I find everyone's just very awkward about it. No, it's not. I don't think there's that much of a difference. Also, you're not allowed to at work anyway. We're not allowed to compare salaries, I don't think.
No, that's a big
No.
That's a big no-no.
Hey, Imogen.
Hello.
My mom's also from the UK, so she kind of has the same experience as you did. So I just want to say, like, when it comes to, like, maybe like a first date, like, what would be the right way to strike a good conversation to keep, the date interesting?
Okay, so this is where I'm afraid we all do it. You have to do some social media stalking. Because they will be, they'll be on Twitter, they'll find them something, so you'll find a bit of interest, okay? So, for instance, if you wanted to date Michael Riedel, you'd Google Michael Riedel.
The most ridiculous pictures and images come up of me. What am I going to do?
And then you'd say, oh, Michael Riedel is into theatre. There are some other things as well. There'll be some articles online. So you'd then think, okay, and then I'd look at the theatre cheat sheet and just mug up, a few statistics, a few conversation points, a few arguments to keep the conversation going. Because a lot of time people love to talk about themselves. So it's just about finding the right questions to ask them. And thanks to social media, that's actually fairly easy now.
Don't you find it a bit creepy, though? I mean, you have a presence in social media, and if you're meeting someone at a cocktail party and they say, oh, yes, I've been Googling you, don't you think?
You never revealed the Google Riedel. You clearly didn't read the Single Girl's Guide, did you? No.
Oh, so I shouldn't say to someone, I said, well, I've been Googling
No,
you.
you never admit to Googling. You never admit to social media stalking. No. It's just to inform you, just so that you can manage the conversation and keep it in an area that you're comfortable with and in control of.
Interesting.
Time for one more question.
Hello.
Hey, how are you? Okay. Oh, I just wanted to know, has there ever been a time where the cheat sheet has failed?
I love that. So I don't cover sport in this, I have to admit, that's one I didn't. I have always been prepared, but there have been I've made hundreds of appearances on TV news over the years. There are 2 times where I froze, despite the cheat sheet. And that's to do with confidence, and we're all confidence players. And the first time was, so I was on Fox Business, and somebody said something pretty appalling to me as I got on set. He was leaving set. And I just let it throw me. I let it get to me. And then the other one, I just froze. It was about Syria. I knew too much, actually, on that one. I'd done too much research. And it was just such a big topic, and it was a 3-minute segment, and then where do you go on that? But we're all... The only reason a cheat sheet would fail is that you feel lack of confidence. So hopefully this will give people confidence.
And no sports, though. So
no sports.
So, but when you say football...
I mean
soccer.
No, but I do in the book, I make it clear whether it's soccer or football, because I do know this is for Americans, this book.
Right. And football for you is soccer.
Yes. No, football is football.
No, it's soccer for...
Yeah, for you, yes. You can see
I
why
gotta get the cheat sheet out.
our TV segments clearly work really well.
All right, well, thanks, Imogen. The
Thank you,
Intelligent
Riedel.
Conversationalist.
Thank you all for coming.
By Imogen Lloyd Webber. Thank you.